Anyway, the point is, there's a lot of stuff that you can do by yourselves that you can screw up, and it costs more to fix it later. Click. So, first general thing, when you're forming these companies, a lot of people just go online at LegalZoom or some other places and get an incorporation kit or use a NOLO press kit. And you go to Borders, you buy a NOLO press book, maybe you buy it off of Amazon, you buy a NOLO press book for $24.95 and you go, hey, here's a form of articles, I'm going to send it into California, and voila, I've got a company. So, one of the basic things that really annoys me when these companies come to me and they're already incorporated is some of them might have set up an LLC, some of them might have incorporated in like Nevada or something. And the first thing I go is, gosh, I wish you hadn't spent that $200 already doing this incorporation, because I'm just going to tell you to throw it away and do it over. So most companies that are set up to go raise angel seed financing and go get venture financing will start out as Delaware corporations. And if you come to me with something other than a Delaware corporation, I will kind of roll my eyes and go, geez, you could have called me a few weeks ago. The reason why most people do corporations over LLCs is that venture capitalists can't invest in LLCs. End of story. And it becomes very difficult to grant options in an LLC. So while an LLC might be great for a one-person consulting company or a guy that's doing a Facebook app that throws off $100,000 a month and he's the sole guy and he wants all the money coming tax-free to him personally, it works. But if you're trying to go get venture financing or any type of kind of angel seed financing, you got to be a normal corporation. You got to be in Delaware. Hit click. So one of the basic screw-ups that I see a lot is that, if you're going to do the NOLO Press or LegalZoom incorporation, those form documents say, hey, you're going to buy stock for a penny or a tenth of a penny a share. But a lot of times people don't have the foresight to assign IP to the company. So one of the first things you got to make sure of is, especially if you have more than one founder. I mean, you could probably get away with a lot if it's just one founder, because you make all the decisions and you can't get a divorce from yourself. So if something bad happens, you can pretty much fix it. But if you got two founders and they get angry at each other and one leaves and you got arguments over equity or IP ownership, you got a serious problem, because that's not something that's easily fixed. So one thing you got to make sure of is all IP gets assigned to the company. You can assign IP to the company in connection with purchasing founder stock. IP includes stupid things like your business plan and your PowerPoint presentation. If you've already written code, that's another thing that you got to make sure is assigned. And when people go off and do that by themselves, oftentimes they screw it up. The other thing that comes in kind of a standard incorporation package is something called a proprietary information agreement. And what that is a document that says, founder or employee going forward, if you invent anything, it belongs to the company. If you get confidential information from the company, you got to keep it confidential. If you get confidential information from third parties with respect to the company, you got to keep that confidential. So proprietary information agreements or invention assignment agreements, oftentimes in the NOLO Press package or LegalZoom, you're not going to have that. And if you've got a founder that's no longer with the company and he hasn't assigned the IP, trying to get somebody who hates you enough that he's left the company to assign the IP later is a giant pain. Hit click. Another common problem that I encounter, especially once you have two founders, is, people kind of have general ideas of, well, let's do this 60-40 or 50-50, and there might be, email chains kind of saying, well, we haven't incorporated yet, but once we get around to getting introduced to an attorney and incorporating, we'll divide things up 50-50. But let's say, you know, you never get around to it, and then, you know, there's an argument amongst the people, and, you know, there might be an email saying we'll share everything 50-50, but there's never any conversation about stock vesting and somebody leaves. It would be a real shame if you created the next Facebook and you had a former founder that you kind of had an email conversation, you know, documenting the fact that things were supposed to be 50-50, but when you actually incorporated and did the company, you had 100% of the shares. 5 years later, he comes back and sues you saying, hey, I got this email. We were supposed to be 50-50 partners, and, you know, give me a whole bunch of money or give me some stock. That is not an uncommon situation, and once you go sideways with a founder and you don't have everything documented, it is a total pain. I was going to swear, but I realized I was being videotaped. It's going to be a real pain to solve in the future. The other thing is, you want to get that stock issued as soon as humanly possible. So, you know, the reason why is, right after a company is incorporated, there theoretically should be no value to the company because there's nothing in there. So, most of the time, we issue stock to founders for 1/10 of a penny or 100th of a penny or 1,000th of a penny. And we typically issue maybe around 10 million shares of a base to the founders. So, you know, if you might multiply 10 million shares times, you know, 1/10 of a penny or 100th of a penny, we're talking about, you know, purchasing your founder's stock for $10 or $100 or $1,000 or so. And if too much time goes by before you incorporate, the value of the company has probably increased. So, you know, if you incorporate and don't get around to issuing founder stock, and you start inventing a whole lot of stuff, and suddenly a VC says, hey, you know, value of the company is $3 million, I'm going to give you a term sheet for, to raise $1 million on a $3 million pre-money